Space Center, the highly anticipated launch of NASA's Artemis 1 mission has been scrubbed. Here's a live look at the vehicle assembly building at Kennedy Space Center. As far as we know, Orion is still on the launch pad as NASA engineers gather data. Orion was ready to take off this morning, headed for the moon, but a crack in the inner tank and a hydrogen leak led to delays. Then this scrub. ABC's Morgan Norwood is at the Kennedy Space Center for us with former NASA astronaut Katie Coleman. So let's start with you, Morgan. What are NASA engineers saying or looking to gain from this data they're collecting?
Yeah, after a series, cascade of, series of issues here on the launch pad with SLS right behind me, you can see it there. Basically they're just trying to figure out what the main issue is. Within the past couple of hours or so, we know that it was an engine issue that ultimately caused this launch to scrub. And so from here on out, from here maybe until Friday, which is the next launch window, they'll be just trying to figure out and make sure that that is the next window that which they can bring the rocket up to space. And Katie, you just let me know if that's correct, how this process is going to be working.
Exactly.
Here.
No, that sounds just right. I mean, there's 4 main engines, and these are actually the engines we used on the shuttle. And in fact, I think that one of them was used on one of my shuttle missions, which is pretty cool to me, anyways. But so we know the shuttle main engines well. And one of the things that you might see before a shuttle launch is you see that kind of little sparklers underneath. You think you're actually lighting the engine, but actually it's burning up the excess hydrogen, and that's the capability where they were like, hey, when we do that, when it's right at lunchtime, will it be ready? And one of those engines didn't react well, didn't show the pressures they expected. And so that's the troubleshooting that they need to do. And they'll figure out in the next few days, can they make the next window? It's a complicated equation, but it's going to be an amazing mission. And this is a test flight.
Yes. Yeah, you mentioned a good point because we heard Bill Nelson's... Oh, I'm sorry, Marla, I didn't mean to step on you.
I was going to say, Katie, actually on that note, what you just mentioned, in your experience, are delays like this common with launches of this magnitude? Because you explained there's a lot of components to this. And so is this something that NASA was expecting, perhaps?
Well, it is a test flight, and when you say these kinds of launches, we have not done something like this in 50 years. It's really a long time, and what you think of as Apollo, now we've really updated so many of those things, and it's new. I mean, we may be going to the same place, just like when they say, why go back to the moon? Well, we go to work every day,
sure,
and we go back to work, but we go because we've still got really important work to do, and that's what this program is about. But the first launch, this one, it is a test mission, and really they're finding out so much about what the environment out in space will be like for the rocket, for the instruments, all those things that could fail, but also for people. We've got like mannequins and dummies, so to speak, on there, all instrumented to understand the radiation. Yeah. I mean, before you and I actually sign up and say yes, we will go, sure, Morgan. I mean, this is the flight we want, and it's a hard flight, right, and that's why we got to wait till everything is right.
Yeah, actually, when I read a quote from Bill Nelson, I mean, he said that this is just simply a part of the space business, and it is a test flight, as we've been stressing. Testing this rocket and a spacecraft in a way that you won't get an opportunity to do when the actual mission, Artemis 2, goes up. This is kind of the outcome that it's not the outcome that you want, but it is the best case scenario because it sounds like this is not something that you would want on Friday or, even the next time around for Artemis 2.
Well, and when I hear something like, the things that happened today, I actually think of the people that I know are already working on these things. I mean, these rockets, they may not have people on them, but they are certainly, built by people, tested by people, designed by people.
Absolutely.
And this team is going to make us a rocket that gets us to the moon.
Absolutely.
It's just hard.
Yeah.
And Katie mentioned that there are no...
Who was on hand for the launch today, which had hoped to be a big moment in history for the Space Center, but instead it'll have to wait for another day. The launch attempt was scrubbed. Administrator, thank you for being here. What are your thoughts? How are you feeling after all of this anticipation and build-up, and then unfortunately couldn't go today?
We don't launch until it's right. And in fact, they've got a problem with the gases going on the engine bleed on one engine. You can't go. There are certain guidelines. And I think it's just illustrative that this is a very complicated machine, a very complicated system, and all those things have to work. And you don't want to light the candle until it's ready to go. I have some personal experience in the crew that I participated in on the 24th flight of the space shuttle. We scrubbed 4 times on the pad.
Okay.
And the 5th try was a flawless mission. We know, had we launched on any one of those scrubs, it wouldn't have been a good day. And so that was Hoot Gibson and Charlie Bolden's crew. And so, you know, this is just part of the space business. And it's part of particularly a test flight. We are stressing and testing this rocket and the spacecraft in a way that you would never do it with the human crew on board. That's the purpose of a test flight.
And you talk about the complexity, and certainly that is the case here, and learning as we make these attempts. In fact, this engine bleed was something that they wanted to see in wet dress rehearsal number 4. Didn't get an opportunity for it. So for the hardworking team that is still here actually gathering data from this rocket and its current configuration, any message for the launch team?
I want them to know that they're doing the perfect job that they always do. They're taking an opportunity while that vehicle is still fueled up to work this problem. And they're going to work it. They'll get to the bottom of it. They'll get it fixed, and then we'll fly.
And when we fly, we hope to have all of our guests back. Of course, there were big crowds